Auguro a tutti i nuovi amici piloti italiani della Audi 90 GTO IMSA in bocca al lupo per il campionato Kamel GT. Fatevi onore, date gas e tenete alto l'onore della mia Audi Racing preferita di sempre, l'Audi 90 IMSA GTO. Ciao e in bocca al lupo, tenete giù.
Best greetings to all drivers from the Audi GTO 90 Championship. Good success.
This season has already produced some odd stats. Leskala has been on pole in the GTO class 3 times, but has only converted one of those to a win. On the GTP side, Cy Andre has finished in 3rd position in every race he started this season. Ahead of it all, Lake and Gerber lead the championships. As those spots start to become familiar to those two, we arrive at an equally familiar track, Watkins Glen. Will it be same old, or will it offer up something unusual? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 5 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Watkins Glen has not only hosted numerous races here in the Kamel series, but also countless real-world races. Let's head to our track guide to see why it continues to be a staple in the motorsports diet. Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York, just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5 and 3.5 miles in length, lap times can vary greatly. But it also means it's suitable for lots of different levels of racing, from amateur to pro. The one thing that stays consistent no matter which car and which layout you're using is that Watkins Glen means speed. Many of the straights are very long, and the majority of the corners are fast sweepers. Some of them include a surprising amount of banking as well. Combine that with the proximity of the barriers, and this historic circuit retains a very old-school feel. Drivers in lesser-powered cars can expect drafting battles, while higher-powered machinery will test the skill and bravery of their pilots. Some of the turns are visually iconic, such as the carousel and the S's. Others, like the inner loop, the chute, and turn 9, greatly challenge even the expertly skilled. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the drastic amount of elevation change drivers experience. Between its rich history and popularity among drivers, this track stays busy and seems likely to be that way for a long, long time. Between use with NASCAR and all the various road series that come here, Adam, this place stays busy on the service.
It always does, and while Watkins Glen has hosted racing for over 72 years, the 30-year-old Kamel Series vehicles today will be tackling a little bit more of a traditional layout than those who are fans of IMSA or NASCAR will be used to. This 3.4 mile or 5.47 kilometer 11-turn layout removes the bus stop chicane but includes the boot, making the run up through the S's and down the back straight the best passing place on the circuit, and transforms the track from a technical endurance track to a technical draft track. The Audis feel very at home here with the exception of the S's and the exit of the boot, where their natural four-wheel drive understeer tries to kick them into the powder blue Armco barriers. Nissans are a little more uncomfortable as their downforce is often right on the edge of doing enough work for them, and the bumpy track surface threatens to pull the rear tires from the track on acceleration out of the slower corners of the boot. Multi-class here is chaotic, as the Nissans are significantly faster than the Audis, making for some harrowing moments throughout, especially through the boot section. And with the high turnout we've seen so far this year, Joe, this will be a very interesting race indeed.
Yeah, this could make the difference. It might be the same old, like I said, or it could throw up something really odd. Now, speaking of things being the same, let's take a look at the championship. And this is becoming very, very familiar each season. Fabian Gerber is leading the prototypes, but Jamie Hall, who has now switched back over to the prototypes after a long stint in the GTOs, has been chasing him. He's had a bad couple of rounds. That's why he's got that big gap over Winsworth now that he has to catch up to Gerber. Cy Andra, not as successful as he was when he first came in and made a splash, but still a trio of thirds is good enough to keep him in, well, appropriately third. And you got Hovdal not far behind him, and even closer is Nick Mukanos, who's had a little bit of an up and down season of his own. Let's take a look at the GTO championships now.
Yeah, currently Phil Lake is leading over Michael Houghton, and the difference there is those 2 wins for Phil Lake. Michael Houghton only with 1, and even though he's only 3 points behind, he's been losing time to Phil because Phil's been able to be very consistent. Yuko Leskala also closing the gap to 13 points on those top 2, so you have to be very close to, pay very close attention to Yuko as this series continues to go on. Franco Scurry 26 points behind Phil Lake, and Reed Miller 45 points rather than 445 points behind Phil Lake. So he's quite a ways out of it, but still being very consistent, getting into that top 5 for the first time this season.
That's a long jump back to 5th place. So we take a look at the race details here now, and we are in round 5 out of 12, like I mentioned. So we're getting close to halfway through the season. It's a 40-minute race. They have a rolling start, as is tradition here in sports cars. It's an open setup series, but the drivers are pretty free about sharing tips and making sure that everybody gets up to speed with this being a close-knit series. No fast repairs, though, so if you get any sort of damage, you are basically stuck with it. And, of course, they have penalties if you rack up too many incidents. Those include drive through it first and then an actual full disqualification. As we wait for qualifying to wrap up here, we also want to remind you that if you're looking to take advantage of GSRC's over 1 million global monthly impressions, from official series sponsorships to commercial placements, we have advertising options customizable to suit your company's needs. Follow the link in the description below if you want to find out how you can get your company here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Right now, up at the top of the qualifying, Alexander Walton seems to have managed to go fastest here in the prototypes, and Phil Lake is continuing to be very quick as he leads the way in the GTOs.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Walton up there. Walton, not a name we're very familiar with in the Kamel series, but the Nissan can transfer a lot of skills over from some of the older series, especially the Lotus 79, when these drivers get in here and start racing it. So very interesting to see Walton up at the front, but not necessarily all that surprising. But as I say that, Fabian Gerber leaps up to the lead.
By 14 thousandths of a second. This is Hovdal, who we saw snag a win at Daytona, 29.622. That's good enough for the second row. Puts himself ahead of Fabian's brother Tobias. What about Cy Andre as we watch Phil Lake now, who leads by half a tenth over Yuko Leskala. We'll check on Leskala in just a second as he'll be coming to the line soon after Lake here. As he tries to improve, I can tell you that Cy Andra does go to a 29.4 and up to pole in the prototypes as Lake improves to a 42.2.
Very quick pace there for Phil Lake.
And here comes Leskala, 41.93, and that's going to dispose Phil Lake down to second. Wow, a lot of shifting around here on the second lap.
Second lap definitely quicker for these drivers. The track conditions are making that a little bit easier to get those tires warmed up. 85 degrees on circuit right now, 75 in the air. That's 29 Celsius on track for these drivers with only a 5 mile per hour wind out of the south. Not much humidity to speak of as we see Yone Kayanen coming in, and he's looking to set a decent time.
Jamie Hall, worth noting, came out a little bit late, but he's got enough time to finish his second lap. His first one only good enough for 6th. That's not going to satisfy him, I'm sure. watching Krejcik as he comes out of turn 9 up to the final 2 corners. He's got it into 10th with a 30.2. Only has to make up a 10th and a half to get ahead of Fabian Jungluth in front of him. Let's see if he's any quicker this time as he streams down to the line. No, and he is less than a 10th slower than his first lap, unfortunately.
This is a very strong strength of field for these drivers. I'm not talking about the statistic iRacing puts out. I mean, just take a look at the names at the top of the GTP standings. Jamie Hall in 6th place right now, and he can't really be mad about that because he's only about 3/10 out of pole position. All these drivers ahead of him, so strong throughout the series, throughout the history of this series, with the exemption of Walton, who is one that we haven't seen in quite a while. So very impressive field out there for the Nissans. That's going to be very difficult for any of these guys to try and take home a win. But Jamie Hall coming out of the final corner. Let's see what he can put in.
He comes down to the line. It's a 29.7 and now a 29.6. That'll get him onto the second row into 4th place. Kajanen, who is in 6th in his class, looking to see if he can improve. Worth mentioning, Roman Pawlowski onto the second row in 3rd, next to Michael Houghton currently. As out of the final corner, Yoni rushes down. It's a 43 flat, and that will jump him only up to P5, but a massive improvement of 4/10 on his second lap.
One of the things that the Nissans and the Audis need to be careful of is there are quite a few Audis that did not set qualifying times. We'll cover them in the results, but that might affect the multi-class battle.
That sets our grid, so let's go through our starting order for today. Cy Andra, who apparently did not get to practice before this race and comes in and smashes things with a pole, is ahead of his rival from last season, Fabian Gerber, starting 2nd. Alex Walton comes in and shows that he is someone to watch out for, starting in 3rd. Jamie Hall, good enough for 4th, with Matthias Hovdahl, last round's winner, starting P5, just inside of Tobias Gerber in 6th. Laust Olsen, a nice qualifying of 7th for him, with Ardo Iamaki a little bit down comparatively from what we're used to the Finn, in 8th spot. Fabian Jungluth starts 9th, and then Martin Krejcik rounds out your top 10. Nick Schneider starts the next page in 11th. Uwe Trangerade, another one struggling here in the qualifying, down in 12th. Iker Estefania returns to the series in 13th, and Heitor Sintes Guindo starts P14. Yuri Giesen comes on over from the GTOs, trying out the GTPs now. He'll start 15th, with Stephen Warkup starting 16th and Ben Laughter in the 17th spot. Guy Otero starts in 18th. He'll be followed by Bronislav Robanek in 19th and Hideki Koivisto in 20th. The last couple to put qualifying times in are Jeff Furcon and Mitch Heller, with Craig Schultz not managing to put a lap down. He'll start at the back of the Nissan field.
Starting behind the 23 Nissans is Jukka Leskala taking pole in the Audis, with Phil Lake lighting up alongside him. Roman Pawlowski, with an amazing time for him, is going to start off in 3rd, bumping Michael Houghton to 4th position, our 2nd place in the championship points, starting off in 4th today. We have Yoni Kiainen starting off in the 5th spot, with Franco Scurry starting off in 6th, ahead of Reed Miller in 7th. Also a little bit of a surprise there from those qualifying times. Pablo Rangel starting off in the 8th spot, then Franco Offerman starting off in 9th. Burke Treidler is going to start off in 10th position, with Maxime de Thomason starting off in 11th. Miguel Alcalde starting off in 12th. Michael Haynes 13th. Then Tom Moiti starting off in 14th. Miro Haraski starting off in 15th. Jens Vac 16th. And then we get Jens Vac is the first driver without a time. Then we have Carlos Fonseca 17th. Roger Gregory 18th, and Kyle Graham rounding out your 19 GTO cars and the 43 cars on the field.
Okay, so there's some interesting chatter going on amongst the drivers as they lined up for the grid. Cy himself obviously surprised that he managed to snag the pole, but some of them are theorizing that this is the track where you don't want the pole with that draft up the backstretch. I mean, would that sort of gamesmanship actually happen, Adam, or do you think this is just them having some fun?
I mean, it's definitely a possibility that you could get passed by the massive draft train in the GTPs as you head into the right-hand carousel. I think that it's going to be a real struggle for Cy to maintain this lead, especially with the aggressive field he has behind him. For the Audis, on the other hand, Jukka Leskala is going to be able to get a jump before the final corner. and maybe even before the final last 2 corners. So he's probably going to be free and clear by the time they get through the S's. But the draft in the Audi is so strong. I would expect Phil Lake, Roman Pawlowski, and even Michael Houghton and Joni Kajanen coming all to the fore and trying to give him a challenge as they go into the carousel as well. So expect some chaos on lap 1.
We'll certainly be watching it. You can see them coming down without that backstretch bus stop, the inner loop. It is just a straight run as it used to be here up to the carousel. There is our GTO class now heading towards there. Going to have a lot more braking to do than the high downforce Nissans, but also a lot of drafting heading up into this corner. The other question on that is I mean, where are the danger zones? That carousel, I have to imagine, could cause some sketchy moments with the differences with how those cars handle it.
Yeah, the danger zones are different when you're talking, but within the class and between the 2 multi-class drivers. Within the class of the Audis, the danger zones are going to be through the boot pretty much entirely. When you come to multi-class, it's going to be going through the S's and into the carousel, as well as the boot. It's pretty much just everywhere except for the final sector of the course. For the Nissans, their danger points are through the boot and the last sector. That's where the downforce isn't quite working enough for them, especially as they get into the corners because they're long sweepers. They actually run into the problem where the downforce actually peels back as they get through the center of the corner, and that often causes inexperienced Nissan drivers to try and put some power down to keep the downforce down on those machines, and they end up spinning the rear tires and spinning out. So that's where you have to be very careful if you're following a Nissan through those sectors.
All right, Cy Andra getting ready to lead Fabian Gerber to the line as the Porsche pace car now coming through the penultimate turn. One more to go, then he will release them. And it is a very short run. So will we see Cy Andra scamper away immediately, or will he try to check up the field? They're out of the final corner. Pace car is in. Andra's waiting. Green flag is out, and he actually gets a poor start compared to Fabian Gerber. Behind them, a little bit of 3 wide with Laus Olsen splitting the other Gerber along with Hovdal down in the first turn. Who can manage to get through? A little bit of a touch from Jamie Hall from behind on Walton. Everybody manages to make it through as they're almost 4 wide back there. Let's go to the Audis.
Nobody in the Audis expected the green flag when they did. Yuka Leskala didn't get a great jump. He tries to outbrake Phil Lake into turn 1. He's going to be able to do it. That 90 not proving to be a very good opportunity for Phil Lake. Everyone in the Audi seems to get through the 90 pretty well through the S's.
We got a side-by-side battle in our prototypes, and Fabian Gerber's going to take the lead away from Cy Andra on the first lap, or is he? He's going to try and come back at him as they head down into the chute. Andra has no answer, though. The outside of that corner just doesn't work. So Gerber up to P1.
And now in the Audis, we have a side-by-side battle between Yuka Leskala and Phil Lake. Phil Lake's going to take the inside through the carousel. He's going to try and pressure Yuko out, but then it's going to swap over to the outside as they head down the hill into the heel of the boot here. As they go into the corner, it looks like Yuko's going to maintain that lead.
Leskala's been a little bit snake bit this season. Clearly, he wants to try and take a second
Martin
win.
Kraytrig is off in the Nissans.
And so is Hovdal. Hovdal was off in the heel of the boot. I think he just clipped the wall, but he might be able to keep going safely. As we take a look at our leader, Fabian Gerber, pulling a gap over Jamie Hall now. Hall has somehow gotten by Andra when we weren't looking. P2 now belonging to the number 8. Olsen jumps up to 4th from his start. What a run from the 25.
There's a lot of chaos going on in this first lap for sure. We've had a wreck at the back of the field between Hideki Koivisto and Jeffrey Fulcom. They're
going to take a tow, it looks like.
Fortunately, because the Audis were just coming up there, so that would have been extremely dangerous.
One of them took a tow. Furcon gets it going, but he was thankfully out of the way in time. You can see him trundling down towards the pit lane. As our leader in the GTOs, Phil Lake, how much is he going to be caught up the hill by Yuko Leskala as they climb through the S's and start to pick up speed? Houghton giving chase in 3rd. He's going to get a much bigger pull on the draft from the Finn. They start to hit 160 miles an hour, 165, 170 down towards the end of it. Houghton gaining on Leskala, but Leskala not gaining on Lake.
No, they're going to be now nose to tail pretty much for the rest of the race unless somebody gets a mistake. Considering this is a 40-lap race, they're not going to have the pit stops that they're expecting. So look for people to be taking opportunities for mistakes and also, frankly, just waiting for the Nissans to catch up to them and cause a little bit of chaos.
Looking at our Nissans, it's a 3-car breakaway. Gerber leads Hall, leads Andra, and then Walton has fallen away. I guess that lack of experience potentially affecting him. Meanwhile, we were right on board with Andra. Our pole sitter slotted down into 3rd, but already all over the back of the number 8.
Yeah, Jamie Hall did an excellent job to climb those 2 positions at the beginning of this race to try and get up there in battle for the lead. But Fabian Gerber's starting to chase to run away. So Andra's going to have to get this pass done because if Fabian breaks off much more of a gap, this is going to be trouble for Hall. Hall's actually not going to line up behind Fabian. This means Side's going to be able to snake through. Hall's going to let him go.
Wonder if he's just trying to work with him. I mean, Hall knows the game around here, so if he feels he's got a good enough slingshot, and they did gain a little ground, it's down to half a second now, and they've clawed back some of that on the number 3. Wow, if this is how the race is going to go, this is going to be a frantic one. Let's check back in on our GTO leaders because they are now coming through the S's once more. Leskla behind Lake, ahead of Houghton. You can see they have to use all of the track up through these winding, climbing set of curves. But, oh, look at Leskla, though. He is not pulling at all on our leader. And Houghton might have a shot as they come up to the carousel. He decides to back out of it. It's a 4-car breakaway as opposed to the 3 we're seeing in the GTOs.
Yeah, it is. And I know for a fact that the Dirty Torque drivers always take enough fuel to lead the entire race to the end. So if Yuka Leskla has taken a lighter amount of fuel, that might be why he's soft pedaling it down the back straight. It puts him at susceptible to Michael Houghton, but at the same time, it can make him a lot quicker through these corner sections, through these sharp corner sections, if he has less fuel in the car.
That's the 3 of them come up into the heel of the boot. The 4th in line is Pavlowski, who is just about hanging on there. And they might be towing along Joni Kaijinen. He's got a long distance back to 5th.
Let's go to P9 or P10 in the Nissans because it's 3 wide as they go down the back straightaway. This was forced by Aitor Sintes Guindo and Stephen Warkup. Stephen Warkup trying to go around the outside of the corner. He split them when they weren't expecting it, and he's actually possibly going to complete this pass.
Third driver on that trio is Schneider, who decided to back out of it. Way wide goes Sintes Guindo, and he might have to give that spot back to Nick, who gets beside him down into the toe of the boots. He's going to have to go the long way around, which is very tough in this 180-degree corner, and Schneider falls back into 12th. So Warkup up into 10th with a gutsy move.
Very gutsy for him, and he's able to get that done and also run away from the battle that's happening behind him. So very impressive stuff from Stephen Warkup today.
We are only 12 minutes into this race. Just stunning stuff. We're looking once again down at Phil Lake ahead of Leskala and Houghton with Pavlowski in the yellow machine. Out of the carousel they go. A little bit of a peek from Houghton, showing his nose on the fin, but not a serious move.
Yeah, Houghton has been struggling this season. He's talked to me about getting the tire temperatures to be within their optimal range. He tends to be tough on the tires, so he's trying to work on that. But trying to do that and keep up with 2 of the fastest drivers the GTO's class has ever seen is a real challenge for sure.
And we have to remember, we're going to get traffic soon for the GTPs. They will eventually come through this fight and start to interrupt it. We had a bit of an off from Jens Vack in the number 27, but he's going to get going without hitting anything. He will be stuck in the middle of our prototypes, unfortunately. So we watch Phil Lake coming around through the penultimate turn. They still at least have a few laps to go before they get caught up by those prototypes, but they better savor this now.
That being said, the prototype leaders are definitely going to start hitting that traffic right about now. Fabian Gerber actually got held up a little bit by Kyle Graham, who looks like he's just trying to circulate and get a little bit of practice in. But it's going to be difficult around here for him to do that. The next car for these drivers is 10 seconds ahead, and that's how we start to get into the battles for position. That's 16th of Tom Moitius up ahead of them, and he's going to be really struggling for they're gonna be struggling to try and get by him, considering he's currently battling Carlos Fonseca for position.
Yeah, that's pretty much where it seems like the thick of the pack starts. So after Tom, there's not going to be any rest for these guys for a while. We got to take a look at the GTOs once again. And once again, Houghton looking very strong coming out of the carousel. This time, though, Leskala showing a little bit of nerve down into the chute, but doesn't manage to get inside of Lake. Things are looking like they're amping up a little bit here in the GTO class.
They're definitely amping up in the GTO class. The driver looks like Yuka's being extremely aggressive right now, trying to make the pass on Phil Lake, trying to upset Phil Lake and get him to break his cool. It's a hard thing to do. Phil's a very stout driver. I'm very interested to see whether or not he's going to be able to pull this off. He's going to have to make some sort of desperate move or a late braking move down the inside to make this happen. I think he might be trying to size him up for the front straight.
On board with Mikey, you can see how small the margins are between the cars. He is just right on top of the bumper of the fin. And while we're watching this, I'm also keeping an eye on our GTP leaders to see if we get any excitement with the traffic. So far, it's been surprisingly dramaless, as they have basically just been weaving through, and the drivers have been finding gaps where possible.
All right, Joe, this is the best opportunity that either Yuko or Michael has had on trying to make a pass up through the S's. Let's see whether or not Michael can get something done on Yuko here, because he's tucked up right behind him.
He actually makes the move. He looks like he's going to go to the outside. No, he's going to the inside as he switches back. Coming down the backstretch, he's got the speed. Yuko can't fight it, but can he into the braking of the carousel? He's going to try, and it's all for naught as Houghton gets through. So, if Yuko couldn't do it, can Michael do something with his teammate?
We're going to go to lead in the GTPs because Andra's chasing right up behind Fabian Gerber, and they're about to catch Miguel Alcalde, who's battling for position. This could be very interesting as they squeeze up the inside of Bert Treidler right there. That was some sketchy moments. The Audi's in the middle of the track. The Nissans had to decide where to go. They take the inside, and now as they catch up to the back of these slower Audi class drivers, they're going to have to start weaving and cutting through them.
That was trust is what that was from Fabian Gerber. For that Audi to not cut down on him and to see him coming. They're going to go on by Francois Offerman. Up next, all three going to get through. A very late dive from Jamie Hall to make it stick, though. He does not want to lose touch with these top two.
Not at all. He needs to stay with them, especially because the opportunities have yet to come. He actually clips the inside curbing just a little bit. That's going to lose him a couple of tenths here. We're going to ride on board with Jamie Hall as he chases behind Sayandra and Fabian Gerber as they both get held up by Pablo Rangel. That's going to be a little bit stressful. So Jamie Hall might have an opportunity here as they go onto the front straight.
And just like that, they're already well past Pablo, letting him be. Another battle coming up in front of them. That's Scurry and Miller. This is starting to get up for the top spots, so the drivers will be less willing to give way. What is this going to look like? Will they catch them in a good place down the back stretch? I think they might.
And it looks like the lead in the GTOs might be switching here because Michael Houghton is going to look to the inside of Phil Lake as they go to the carousel. He's actually going to back out of it.
Still, he's given his teammates something to think about there. And I can tell you that as we look at the GTPs, they're easily going to be able to get by both Reed and Scurry. So again, able to sneak through without too much chaos amongst them. We got to keep a closer eye on this battle for the GTO lead, because this has seemed much more likely to swap ends. As they come up out of the toe of the boot, they're going to be joined by Gerber, Andre, and Hall, and well, looks like maybe about a lap here.
Yeah, and as we're watching that, if you ever want to watch a little bit of chaos, P10 in the GTPs is absolute insanity as they cut through traffic as well. These guys have been going 3 and even 4 wide. We're going to take a look at this. This is a pack of cars. This is Nicholas Schneider, Stephen Workup, Aitor Sentes Guindo, Iker Estefania, and Matthias Avdal, of all people, tucked into this gigantic battle.
Havdal, after his off, has not been able to recover very well. Not sure if he's had damage or what. I haven't really had a chance to look and watch as they all try and get inside of poor Rangel, who is just at the wrong place at the wrong time. Sintez Guindo going around Workup, very close, but he makes the spot. Everybody scatters to try and make sense of what's going on, and Sintez Guindo gets the best of it. We still have a fight down into the 90 as Estefania defends to the inside of Havdal, looking to get one of those spots back on the outside. That just doesn't pay off.
Complete chaos for these drivers as they start to go up through the S's, and I can tell you right now that Jamie Hall and Michael Houghton made some pretty significant contact as Jamie was trying to navigate through the lead of the GTOs, and that was through the S's, as this group is gonna catch up to these drivers up ahead of the GTOs. And look at this, tight battles for here as they go through the carousel once again.
Poor Reed and Scurry are just going to have to keep their eyes in the mirror and stay out of the way, with 6 cars, all fighting for position in the mid-pack of the prototypes. Almost completely through. At the back of it, Ove Trangarade wants to tiptoe around and get the shot up the hill. Doesn't get the grip. Estefania starts to pull away, and now they streak apart.
And now I guess they can sort of breathe for a couple of seconds, because their next lap car is going to be Joni Kainen up ahead of them. So, I mean, this battle is just not going to go anywhere. I assume pretty much the entire race, unless there's an accident, they're going to be clumped together like this.
Well, and they got to hope that things continue to stay split up at the GTOs, because they've now got some gap between them. Lake ahead of Houghton. Looks like the traffic has given them air. But will that change around when we have what is essentially just a freight train of prototypes coming through down into the first corner? A little bit of look there from Havdal.
Now this is where it's absolute chaos for these GTPs and the GTOs. The GTOs need every single inch of their line that they take through the S's, and the GTPs are just going so much faster. That's where the chaos seems to happen. And up in front of them, Laust Olsen and Martin Kraytrick are battling with Fabian Jungbluth for the 6th position as they go into the carousel. That's Laust Olsen almost going wide into Fabian Jungbluth. Fabian Jungbluth going to be able to hold him off, go around the outside of the corner. Martin Kraytrick looking for an opportunity to come through, and they brought Nicholas Schneider to the party.
They've been fighting for about a lap now, but Jungbluth gets it done. Kraytrick watching the rear wing of Laust Olsen, spying an opportunity if one opens up. They actually might get joined by the big pack if they keep fighting. Oh no, the big pack is having a big wreck, and it's Havdal going around. He got turned by War Cup.
Yeah, and this was tucked in behind Michael Houghton, our second place GTO driver. He's managed to keep a 0.4 second gap to Phil Lake, even with all this chaos. We're going to watch this once again.
Right by our leaders. Oh. And you know, we talk about it a lot, but it's that hitbox. It looks like just, unfortunately, the two cars got closer than the computer liked and made contact. Meanwhile, we got a side-by-side battle between Workup and Estefania right now, and Estefania is going to be able to get ahead of him. That moves him up into the...
No, Workup. Oh boy, 3 wide into the turn 1. That's some stressful stuff. Workup trying to take the outside around Estefania and try and split the gap between the Audis. That was very close stuff there.
P1? What P1? That battle doesn't matter to them. Phil Lake and Michael Houghton are just having to basically have their own fight amongst everybody else, ignoring them practically. And down the back stretch, is this Estefania to the inside? Still trying on War Cup, but still not making anything of it.
What impresses me more than anything is how close Michael Houghton has been able to stay to Phil Lake. The thing about multi-class in the Camel Series is that whichever class has the majority of cars on track seems to be the one that gets the preference when it comes to the traffic here. The Nissans have a couple more cars than the Audis right now on track, and that's making all the difference when it comes to the traffic, because the Audis are just moving chicanes at this point, and trust me, when you're in the car, it feels like it.
Let's go back to Lake and Houghton. They're gonna, looks like, have Havdal finally get through after his spin. He'll put Lake a little bit off the apex, but he holds down that first spot. Worth noting, for those that you were looking and wondering, wasn't it 4 cars? Well, yeah, back there is Lesko and Pawlowski, who have now settled into their own fight for third, but they have dropped a whole 0.7 seconds behind our top 2. And just as I say that, what happened to Pawlowski here? He was right on top of Yuko before.
I mean, to be honest, Yuko was behind Pawlowski just a couple of moments ago, so Yuko's the one who I'm concerned with having a lot of trouble. So as both of them recover, let's see what happened to Yuko here.
Let's see here. Here's the pass. He's coming up behind him down into the carousel. He doesn't make the pass there. No, he went wide.
Yeah, Romo went wide there. So that was the pass back for Yuko. I'm sure it was a couple laps ago where Yuko had problems, but if we could go back... Yeah, as we go back live, Michael Houghton, I swear to God, is just not intent on trying to pass Phil Lake at this point. I think he's trying to wait till later in the race. We're not even halfway through, believe it or not. I mean, Joe, I'm completely baffled at the fact that we've only had one major incident so far with the amount of chaos we've had today.
We have lost a few cars. Graham Vac, Gregory Corvisto, and Tobias Gerber are all DNFs already, as they're splitting our two leaders. That is Ben Laughter, who tends to often run in the GTOs, but has come over to the prototypes. He's going to leave them be. Laughter actually way down the order. He's in 16th in class, so not having the greatest of days.
Yeah, transferring between the classes, especially in the same season, can often cause a little bit of issues as far as getting acclimated. And this is not exactly the greatest track to get acclimated with the Nissan GTB. This is a track where you're just on the edge of rear grip all the time with the turbo lag.
Stay with these top two and the GTO. Oh, do we have a problem with Ove Trangrade? He's off the track.
And this was a self-spin.
Yeah.
I know he was talking about hardware failure earlier in the day in the Lotus series. Let's see what happens here. Oh,
Loose.
major front-end contact.
Our latest DNF, unfortunately, because he plowed into that blue wall very, very hard. Let's go back to our leaders in the Audis, because Lake, once again, very close to Houghton, and Houghton's actually taking a look this time. He is up the inside, and Lake actually lets him through.
Yeah, decent pass from Michael Houghton. And Phil Lake not challenging. I think this is because Phil Lake knows that the place you want to be on the final lap is right up that rear bumper of the car ahead of you. You do not want to be leading on the final lap if you're an Audi.
Thing is, still got half the race left to go. Do you want to be making this move this early? Is that going to bite him? Is that something where you want to try and let him through a little bit later?
Well, my real concern, if I'm Michael Houghton, is that Phil Lake generally is faster on pace. So this is Guy Del Toro coming up, and he's actually going to cut off the inside from Michael Houghton. Phil Lake's going to back off and let Michael keep the position. But if I'm Michael, I know that Phil Lake is probably better on race pace in general than I am. I would want Phil actually out front of me, pulling me along, because if Phil decides to sit behind Michael, they might bring Yuko back into this battle. He's only 2.5 seconds back.
And we had another DNF, I believe, with some netcode contact. Moite, unfortunately, contact with Jamie Hall, it seems, through the S's. That sent him in a horrible wreck up that fast portion of the track. He's since taken a tow into pit lane. Down into turn 1, into the 90 for Houghton, ahead of Phil Lake for the first time this race. 18 minutes left to go. The games are definitely starting up between these two drivers.
Yeah, that being said, Phil Lake's just not close enough to Michael Houghton to make the pass. And it's actually really hard to get enough of a draft in these Audis to make the pass cleanly without slowing down the person ahead of you. If these two teammates are trying to work together here, it's going to be hard to do.
We paid all this attention to our leaders in the GTOs. Let's stay here in case something happens. But an update, Gerber leads Andra by 1.5 seconds. He's been keeping him at arm's length. And Jamie Hall is about 7/10 back from Andra. So our top three there seem to have lost each other a little bit. Meanwhile, we got a nice fight in 7th in the prototypes. Nick Schneider and Laust Olsen. We were watching them fighting earlier and then got distracted with just everything happening out on the track.
Yeah, they got a little bit separated due to the traffic, and now Laust Olsen is trying to close back up on Nicholas Schneider and possibly make the pass. This is past the S's as they streak past what would be the bus stop.
Slow? Does Jungbluth have damage? They're easily going by. This is for position. They caught him very fast down the backstretch, but then Jungbluth catches him around the outside. Maybe it's not damage. Maybe it's just the wing angle that the 18 has in it. But that was bizarre.
I mean, it very well may be damage. It could be damage that's affecting his top end speed. It could be a little bit of engine damage or floor damage that's affecting that. It wouldn't affect them through this sector, but it sure does look like he's got a better wing on that thing.
They ran him down from many car lengths back down the backstretch. That just shocked me. Maybe he just lost momentum and got checked up behind some traffic. I guess we'll find out next time we get through. They're coming up through some more Audis as Rasky's in front of them. Then they've got Carlos Fonseca shortly up the road.
As they streak past that Audi, they definitely have more downforce to be able to play by that for sure. So.
All right, it almost looks like Jungbluth has recovered. He's well clear of them as they now go by Fonseca down the inside of the 90. That actually holds up Laust Olsen a fair bit, and he might lose the slipstream up the hill. All right, let's watch. Let's keep an eye on Jungbluth compared to Schneider. He's not gaining nearly as quick as he did last time, so I'm guessing there were some outside circumstances.
He definitely gains on the braking for the carousel, but like you said, I think it was some outside circumstances. Maybe got held up by some of the Audis ahead of them, so that could have been what caused that issue.
They're gaining a little bit on the battle ahead of them. That's for fourth. Oh, and actually that's going to change places because Walton, oh no, excuse me, that's a lapped car. Sorry, I thought Yamaki was catching Walton. That is not full position.
Okay, so Joe, you know how I was talking about how having Michael Houghton lead might not be good for Phil Lake and Michael? Yuko Leskola has cut the gap by a second up to about 1.5 seconds on this lead pack. So Yuko definitely gaining with a head of steam. Phil Lake might be trying to save fuel here, but they are losing time to Yuko. And we know how aggressive Yuko gets towards the ends of races. We've got 15 minutes to go, and they've got Yuko Leskola charging on him.
They come up to the carousel. Lake's gaining. Doesn't make an attempt down to the inside. These two can't fight too much because, like you said, Yuko catching up to them hand over fist means that he could easily try and sneak through when they're distracted down through the chute, but still looking left and right, finding little openings there, here and there. Phil Lake showing himself in the mirrors to Michael Houghton.
And he needs to because Yuko Leskola is under a second to these guys. He's gained 0.5 of a second just on the last half lap alone. This is some stressful stuff for these drivers up ahead of them. They're battling for the championship lead, but they can't forget that Yuko's only 13 points out of this. If they get into some trouble or they end up getting caught out by some lap traffic, they're going to be in big trouble.
So as they come out of turn 9 down towards the end of the lap, there the pole sitter is determined to convert another one of his pole positions into a win, with only 1 out of 4 rounds doing so. They cross the line with 13 minutes left to go. Starting to gain, Phil Lake decides not to try and make a pass, but now, well within the slipstream, Leskola backs up the corner. What's going to happen here?
Phil Lake's got right up under Michael Houghton. This is the best opportunity he's going to have to make the pass, and he's going to need to make it because Yuko is coming with a massive head of steam. He actually loses a little bit of time through the S's, Phil does. Michael's going to pull over and be defensive. Phil's going to have to make this pass. He has to at this point because Yuko's right there.
On the outside, Phil Lake tries to overtake his teammate and take the lead back, but Michael's not giving it up willingly. He manages to almost get fully ahead, but here comes the momentum in favor of the pink car. Houghton trying to hold on desperately into the lead, but there's no grip around the outside of the chute. Lake is now up to the lead, and Leskola is all over the back bumper of Michael.
That's absolutely what Phil needed to do. He needed to put Michael between himself and Yuko, who's charging. He definitely has pace. Phil needs to start putting pace down up in front of these guys and try and pull away from them once again and hope that the lap cars of Fabian Gerber, who's coming up behind him, might cause a little bit of a gap.
Thankfully, has some room to try and play it safe here, about 2.6 seconds to Andra behind him. And indeed, he's trying to find himself a clean gap. He's not trying to insert himself into this quite yet. There, he's going to get one, maybe two. Nope, he's just going to wait between. Look around the outside of Houghton, who has to track out there. That was a little hairy.
Houghton's going to be cursing. He's going to be cursing Fabian just a little bit here. Here comes Cy Andra making the pass on Yuko Leskola. He's brought Jamie Hall with him. This could actually define the GTP battle here for second.
Oh, this is... Oh! Hall tries to get inside of Houghton. Somehow, they don't touch. I don't know how.
I mean...
Oh, wow.
No, I can't believe that did not end a disaster. Jamie Hall, I know he's been making some risky moves today, but that was on another level.
The podium of each class stays intact and continue their fight, which is even more amazing in all of this. They've got Craig Schultz, who's not among the leaders in GTPs, who's trying to finish up.
Roman Pavlovsky's around. Roman Pavlovsky around off the back of Fabian Jungbluth.
And someone with him, Jeffrey Furcon, so I'm assuming this is related.
Yes, this happened coming through the carousel.
Oh, you know what? This started with Pavlowski and Jungbluth. He got sideswiped by Fabian, and then just poor Jeff Furcon. Here's the replay. Jeff Furcon kind of came into it with no place to go. Here's the side swipe, and that turns the car right in the direct path of Jeff. Oh, everything happens so fast here.
We're going to ride on board with Jeff, and I think he just put in the brakes a little bit too hard coming in here. He sees the spin happening, puts in the brakes, rear brake bias ends up spinning him around. He ends up hitting Roman Pavlowski, unfortunately.
So what has this done for our battles? Well, Gerber is a second and a half ahead of Andra, who is a second ahead of Hall. They've split apart. Lake has split apart from Houghton, who is 8/10 back. But Yuko Leskola, on a desperate climb back to the lead, is still challenging Michael Houghton. They've got to give space, and Houghton is going to lose a lot of pace up the hill from that move with GTPs going by. Leskola spies an opportunity. He goes to the outside, getting the draft from Fabian Jungbluth as they come down the backstretch. He's got a nose ahead, and he might have the pass done. He does.
Oh.
Second place.
And there's contact between Ardo Iamaki and Nicholas Schneider as they went through the carousel as well. And this pushed both of them wide and caused Fabian Jungbluth to catch up. All these battles happening at once, being caused by each other.
My goodness, it's a butterfly effect out here in the Camel Series right now. As we watch Nick Schneider continuing to lead Jungbluth out of the toe of the boot. That's Iamaki in front of them. That's 4th position. This is all for P5 currently, and not terribly far behind Walton. If they can work together, it's a second and a half up the road to the newcomer.
It's that speed difference between the Audis and the Nissans when they go through the S's and onto the back straightaway into the carousel. That's where you're seeing all these problems happen. It's a good 30 to 40 miles per hour speed difference for these drivers. That's why we're seeing so much chaos.
And 10 minutes left to go. And if you think this thing is over, you can tell things happen very quickly in the Camel Series, and you just can't predict what is going to swing in favor of who down into the 90. Look at how much curb Schneider's taking.
As they go up, I don't think anyone's going to have an opportunity, but Yuko Leskola might have an opportunity on Phil Lake here. This could be very interesting as they go through the S's. Phil Lake got caught up by Martin Krajcik, who was taking the inside of the 90, and now Yuko tucked right in behind Phil Lake. This is the best shot he's had all race of trying to retain that, get that lead back.
Eason's going to interrupt things. That's the pink Nissan that you see coming through. Leskola's got a slipstream. Are we going to go 3 wide? Nope. He's going to back out of it. Thinks better of it. I wonder if Yuri just threw him off.
I think he did, and Michael Houghton's now right tucked in behind them. This is now a 3-way fight once again. Traffic giveth, traffic taketh away.
Vanya gets through. Look at how close they are. After more than 30 minutes of racing, Lake, Leskola, and Houghton separated by nothing out on the track, and still more traffic is coming up behind them. This is not over.
Not at all. They have Matthias Hovdal coming up behind him. Hovdal's been a little bit assertive this race as well. Most of the GTPs have. I think when we talk to these GTO drivers, they're going to be not too happy with how this race has gone so far as the GTPs affecting their battles. But as we continue, look how close they are, just nose to tail as they exit the boot.
All right, we're starting to come down on laps. So what is going to be the deciding factor? Who's going to make the move when? Here comes Hovdal. Hovdal not fighting anybody right now. He's going to try and pick through Houghton first. He's going to have the speed, but does he dare try and get to the inside of one? Yes, down inside of Leskala. Not what he needs right now. He's going to be able to get by Lake.
Houghton did a fantastic move there. He actually held the brake a little bit longer, which held up Hovdal. He was trying to use Hovdal as a pick to push Lesko out wide. It sort of worked, but Houghton couldn't capitalize on it because he lost that speed. But here comes Leskola with a fantastic run. He's going to look to the inside of Phil Lake. Phil not able to be defensive. I think Michael's going to try and follow Leskola through.
Positions are one, or is it none, as he comes back at him in the braking, but he swings wide, tries to use that four-wheel drive, and it's just not enough there. He keeps it to one position lost, as Houghton takes a peek and decides better of it down into the chute. So our pole sitter back to the front.
Fantastic battling from all these drivers. Yuko with some great drive there through the S is able to get that pass done. But can he hang on to it? Phil Lake right up to his rear bumper as they go through the toe of the boot.
And see if he can shake him, if he can get him to make a mistake, but nothing doing that time through. They come up to the heel of the boot once again, showing himself. Doesn't get an overlap, but boy, is he making that number 7 think twice.
Oh man, this is fantastic battling from these three drivers. Michael Houghton just trying to hang on to the back of these guys at this point because they're starting to streak away from him. Nico Lesko currently leading over Phil Lake and Michael Houghton. If you're wondering what's happening in the GTPs, Fabian Gerber leads by a second over Syandra, and Syandra has about 2.5 seconds over Jamie Hall, so that battle's unfortunately broken up, but this is the closest thing on track right now.
Is. So we've got a chance to try and focus here with 5 minutes left to go. Lake trying to set up Yuko. Behind them, it seems Houghton now struggling to keep up with the pair, and they've got Mitch Heller coming through. Is he going to wait? Yeah, I think he's going to wait. He's not fighting anybody.
Phil's not going to wait, though. He's definitely going to take this opportunity on Yuko Leskola. He's going to look to the inside as they come off of the S as he got a better run through there. This is the carbon copy of what we saw last lap. The question is Yuko going to be better on the brakes here? No, he's going to let Phil through.
Lake back to the lead. Leskola slots in line, and this GTP is actually having trouble in a straight line. Mitch seems to be down on power and could not get by Houghton on the backstretch, but he has allowed him to pull in on our top two. He gets around second place and covering the inside. Look at this, trying to make sure that an opening is not there for Leskola. What a smart move from Phil Lake.
Absolutely. At this point in the race, with 4 minutes to go, you're going to have to be super defensive of these drivers. You see Michael Houghton weaving in the back, telling Ben Laughter, hey, not right now. He's trying to communicate to that GTP that he needs this space to race these two guys up ahead of him.
And I think with the experience that Laughter has in those GTOs, I can't think he can be too mad at him for that one. He knows that what's on the line here.
And he also has about 36 seconds over the next car behind him, so he has some room.
And then through the final corner now, Laughter's going to try and get through. We'll get by Houghton. Your order currently Lake, Leskola, Houghton for your top three in the GTOs.
Oh, Houghton having to go way wide because Ben Laughter braked quite a bit early. He's going to lose a ton of time. Yuko Leskola, though, if he doesn't get cut off by Laughter here, which he does, that should break up his run through the S's. Phil Lake is able to take the corner, but he loses a ton of time to Laughter. Yuko, he hits the inside wall there. Oh my goodness, all the chaos starting to happen now.
That was awful, awful close. Did he actually touch it? It looked like he maybe got away with it. Doesn't matter because he's now got to run as he comes and looks to the inside, but then can't quite get a nose down. A lot of curb for Phil Lake down through the carousel. He holds onto it. This is getting fierce.
You have to be careful, though. They're coming up to probably what's going to be 2 to go here because Fabian Gerber It might be 3 to go for them, actually. Fabian's about 35 seconds behind. I don't think he's going to pass him in time. So for these drivers, it's going to be close when they come to the line. Phil Lake and Yuka Lesko are going to have to do some math here to figure out where they want to be coming across the line here.
Well, a little bit of a peek. Leskola trying to sit it in. Wow, Houghton mighty on the brakes, maybe too mighty. His exit not looking that great. Just a side note, Yamaki loses 5th place to Schneider, who managed to get by, but let's stick here with our battle for the lead in the GTOs.
It's a chess game at this point when it comes to trying to make this pass, and you're also going to have to think about where those GTPs are. They are not going to have Fabian Gerber. I don't think they're going to catch him, so this is all going to be down on raw pace. Yoni Kiainen, for his, in his credit, he's still only 17 seconds back of this battle, and he's been able to keep that gap over Reed Miller. So he's going to hold on to fourth today so long as he doesn't get caught out. We're going to pick up Fabian Gerber here.
Yeah, is he going to get the white flag? Yes, he is. Yeah, this is less than a lap left now. So Gerber brings out the white flag, which means, he is not nearly close enough to lap. That's 2 laps left to go for our battle for the lead in the GTOs.
That's probably the worst news that Phil Lake could hear, to be honest. We're going to look at the P5 for the GTP because it's pretty tight between Nicholas Schneider, Artie Yamaki, and Fabian Jungbluth.
Yamaki recently lost out to Schneider, but he's going to try and get it back. Wow, late defensive move from Nick down into the 90.
Yikes, that's some scary stuff. Fortunately, Schneider was not alongside. Fortunately, Yamaki was not alongside there.
As we come back to our leaders, just can't peel our eyes away. Lake looking strong. He gaps himself from the fin. Can Houghton take advantage and get himself for a 1-2 for Dirty Torque as they come down through the heel of the boot? This is exactly what Lake wants and needs, as he's going to take the white flag this time by.
And here he comes. Yeah, he's going to take the white flag this time by. Look at this. Yuko, let's go. Getting extremely loose coming off the corner. He clips the grass even. That kind of a gap is exactly what Phil wants. He's going to want to put as much power down as possible. Try and build that gap before they go through the S's. Michael Houghton might have an opportunity to snipe second here if he's able to keep within range. Looks like he is a little bit closer than Yuko is to Phil. If he's able to break hard into 1, he might be able to get this.
And we got a in Gerber as he comes around, sees the checkered flag. Victory here, number 3 this season for Fabian Gerber, with Syondra second and Hall taking 3rd.
Oh my God. Look at this. Snyder blocking Jungbluth aggressively all the way through the course. This is going to be a talking point as they dive to the inside of Reed Miller. Schneider's going to hang on to it, but not without contention.
Sure, that'll have some discussion afterward. Meanwhile, battle for the lead in the GTO, ironically, was its least exciting this time down the backstretch. Lake away from Leskola. Is fuel maybe a concern here?
No, I don't believe so. I think Lesko's just run out of tires at this point. He's been very aggressively battling with Phil Lake for quite a while. He's just run out of stuff. Michael Houghton's trying to look onto the back of Lesko, trying to get a move done, but he's also not able to turn into the corners either. They're both trying to be very aggressive and push here, but I think they're just out of juice.
Come up the hill. It just doesn't look like we've got anything unless we see a mistake from one of these 3. Phil Lake, man, just showing himself to be an indomitable force here in the GTOs, almost becoming the king of this class in recent seasons. Leskola, who has taken 4 out of 5 pole positions, just cannot seem to do anything with that 1-lap speed to take the wins, as Phil Lake comes out of the final corner and claims another victory, this time in New York.
Wow, what a race, Joe. So much chaos, so much strategy, so many things happening throughout this race. It's much more than we could talk about as Phil Lake takes a celebratory drift through the 90.
Awesome stuff. We're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because we'll have all the upcoming races shown here on your screen. Welcome back to Watkins Glen. Oh boy, this one was non-stop out there. But Fabian Gerber pulled out another victory this season over Cy Andre, who finally finishes somewhere other than third, but unfortunately at second place instead, in spite of taking the pole. Jamie Hall was third behind them, with Alex Walton coming in and showing a good job with a fourth place. How about Nick Schneider, though? Qualified in 11th and climbed his way up to 5th. He fought hard with the likes of Fabian Jungbluth for much of the race, who finished 6th behind him, as well as overtaking Ardo Iamaki late in the race, who came home in 7th. You've got Martin Krejcik finishing P8 and Iker Estefania returning for 9th. Yuri Giesen rounds out the top 10, with Matthias Havdahl. A first lap mistake was costly, and he winds up settling for 11th. Laust Olsen was P12, and Aitor Sintes Guindo was P13. Ben Laughter comes over to the GTPs and gets to 14th. Guy Otero, first car lap down in 15th. Robanek in 16th. Schultz in 17th. And Heller rounds out our finishers in the prototypes in P18.
Phil Lake is going to take the win today over Yuko Leskala and Michael Houghton. Such an impressive race between those three drivers. Joni Kiainen coming in from that third place is going to finish in 4th after dropping quite a ways back in the traffic. Reed Miller coming home in 5th place once again. Mr. Consistency coming home in that 5th spot. Pablo Rangel coming home in 6th with Francois Overman coming home in 7th. Maxime de Thomason, 8th. Miguel Alcalde coming home in 9th spot with Franco Scurry in 10th. Carlos Fonseca coming home in 11th spot with Miro Haraski coming home in 12th today. Good recovery from him. Then we have Michael Haynes in 13th with Burke Tradler finishing in 14th. Then we get into our drivers that had some trouble. Roman Pavlowski, Tom Moiti, Kyle Graham, Roger Gregory, and Jens Vack in the Audis.
So we've got our winner and the GTOs ready to talk to us, it looks like, as Phil Lake ready to join us here in the booth. And with quite a fight almost all the way to the very end. Phil, we noticed that at one point you decided to let your teammate through. Were you already thinking about the gamesmanship that comes with racing at a draft track like this?
He was having a good old look down the inside, so I thought I'd let him have it and just try not to lose the little gap we had to Yuko, because he was super fast today and he caught us anyway, so it didn't really make any difference. But that's all I was thinking about at that point. And like you say, it's a draft track, so the race doesn't really start until the last 5 laps or so.
And that certainly looked like the case amongst you three. Now, with 4 pole positions in the Saturday races for Yuko, he seems to have that 1 lap pace, but you've obviously taken the lion's share of wins in the race itself. Do you focus on setting the car up for the race itself, or is this just kind of happenstance?
A little bit of both. I do focus primarily on the race. I usually only build the qualifying set half an hour before the race, before the Friday race, so I have about an hour with it overall. But I really, as long as I can qualify in the top 3 or 4, I'm pretty happy. And then I focus on my race pace and trying to build a setup where I can keep the pace up for the whole race.
Stepping away from the tracks with big, long straightaways down towards a more technical place at Mid-Ohio, and with the chicane as well. Are you looking forward to a change of pace over there?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the back half of the season. Is quite technical all the way through now, and I'm really looking forward to it. I haven't actually done Mid-Ohio chicane before, so it's going to be interesting, a new one to learn for me.
Luck down into the keyhole. That's all I can tell you. Congratulations on that, sir.
Thanks, guys.
It's Phil Lake, our winner in the GTOs, and Adam has caught up with Fabian Gerber, winner in the GTPs.
Yeah, Fabian, things were definitely not easy for you out there for sure. A lot of complexity throughout this race, coming home with the win over Cy Andra. But talk to me about how tough it was to maintain that lead over Cy today.
Oh, that was very tough. I'm actually totally exhausted right now. It's traffic. One might think that it's easier at Watkins Glen with the traffic, but it was extremely difficult. Sometimes because of strange decisions, sometimes because just like one time I was behind the leaders, I had to wait for 3 turns, and so I could pass them on the straight. I think we had about even. It was even with traffic between to us. I think Jamie had more bad luck, but it was really difficult, and most difficult were actually the Nissans. Those I had to lap.
Yeah, absolutely. And lapping your own class is always very challenging for sure. But how was it at the beginning of the race when you were able to be without traffic? How hard was it to keep in that draft pack and stay ahead of Sai?
That was really tough in the beginning. As long as he was about below 1.2, 1.4 seconds behind me, he could keep on drafting, and there was no chance to get away. As soon as I had a little bit more speed mid-race when there was still much fuel in the car and tires were a bit used, then I could break away a little, but lost it again in traffic then. I can't say why. He was really fast today, and he kept the pressure on. I was worried all the time, all race long.
Well, next week we head over to the Mid-Ohio with the chicane. What are your thoughts heading into that round?
I'm not sure if... I think the old version actually had the chicane. I think the more modern version, for once, is the one without chicane. I think it may be okay. It's a very similar chicane to the loop we have here at Watkins Glen. I think it might take away overtaking possibility and will make traffic a bit more difficult when we are behind Audis. Without it, we just could pass them into the slow turn, and with this, we have to wait behind. So it's going to be probably a bit more difficult than it could be.
Well, Fabian, great to talk to you. Congratulations on the win, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you so much. See you next week. Bye-bye.
That was Fabian Gerber, and it looks like we're going to go with Sai Andra next, who came home in second place talking to Joe.
Finishing somewhere other than third for the first time this season. But Sai, talk to us about the start. You looked a little sleepy there and had Fabian all over you at the very beginning.
Well, usually during the week, there's 1 or 2 camel races that I do before this broadcasted split. But this week I didn't have that chance, so I didn't really know when we would get the green flag. So I tried to time my starts so I get the full throttle right before we get the green flag, but this time I didn't know where it was. And obviously Fabian had done his homework, and he was right with me on the start. I think he might have been a little bit ahead of me too. So that was not the start I wanted, and that definitely hurt my chances of getting that win today, because I was really planning on getting in front and trying to stay in front, kind of not blowing up, but kind of like heating up Fabian's front tires through the aero wash and stuff like that. But instead, the opposite happened, and I was the one suffering.
Did notice that it seemed there was some incredibly aggressive moves that had to be made by the prototypes this round. Did it feel that way from inside the cockpit?
It was a bit white-knuckled, especially going up the S's, but I think it was mostly safe. A couple of times it was a bit scary with the GTOs leaving room and sometimes not. So it was a bit of a guessing game coming up behind some cars, but especially the GTO leaders, they were a pack of 3 and we got through there just safe. I think I got a little bit close to Phil, but otherwise I think it was fine.
News is this helps you close in on Jamie Hall, who was ahead of you in the points. You didn't manage to beat out Fabian Gerber last season, but you've been consistent at least this one. So what are your feelings at this point, nearly halfway through the season?
I still have some work to do. I believe the gap to Fabian is only getting bigger if he keeps winning these races, so that's going to have to change at Mid-Ohio. Either Jamie or I'll be happy with with winning as long as I come second.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's going to be a 3-way battle for the championship this year, or this season rather. And it's going to be interesting, I think.
Certainly looks that way. Well, congratulations on a podium, and hopefully we'll see you over in Ohio.
Thank you.
With Sai Andra, second place here today in the prototypes. And finally, we've got third place in the GTOs. Michael Houghton joins us.
Hey, boys.
Hey, Michael, you had a very intense race up there with Phil and Yuko. Talk to me about how your race went today.
Yeah, man, it seemed like it was lasting forever. I kept looking at the watch, and I just saw, man, another 25 minutes. Oh God. So yeah, it just felt like it went on forever.
Absolutely, and you had some sketchy moments with some GTP traffic, especially your former teammate Jamie Hall. Talk to me about that scary moment as you went through the S's about midway through the race.
Yeah, we had a couple scary moments through there. The first one, I went up the S's as usual, and the Audi tends to track out coming back onto the straight. And I decided to come back into the racing line because I would have hit the wall if I didn't slow down, and I didn't want to slow down. So one of us had to do something, and unfortunately, Jamie came up behind me and hit me, and I think he was pretty pissed off about that. But yeah, that's give and take racing.
Absolutely, and next week we head over to Mid-Ohio with the chicane. Have you tested out that track yet?
Yeah, should be a track that suits Phil a lot. He likes those twisty tracks. I'm more of a Watkins, Glen, or Daytona kind of guy. So yeah, we'll have to see how that works out, and hopefully we can get a better result than today.
Yeah, but Michael, a great race from you today. Definitely great to see you fighting up there for the wins once again, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Guys, I'll see you next week.
That was Michael Houghton finishing third place in the Audi GTOs.
Insightful interviews this time. I love when we get some interesting answers from drivers about some of these tracks, but we're going to have to close up. And of course, we want to remind you, if you want to advertise with GSRC, that we've got a link in the description below. Make sure and check that out. But a big thank you goes out to the Kamel Series for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Thank you goes out to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. We've got them listed here on your screen, along with June Lawn's contacts. She does all the wonderful music for our broadcast, too. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, check out our merch store, also linked in the description below, just gsrc.storenv.com if you want to type it in yourself. And next race, as we mentioned, we're going to Mid-Ohio, but it's the old version appropriately for these cars. That'll be Saturday, October 24th at 1 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen. Make sure and check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Next one coming up quickly, it'll be the Jetta Masters at Oran Park at 4 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.